The snow didn't fall, it attacked. Sideways, violent, slicing across Lake Erie like shards of ice flying out of a blender. The wind screamed at 36 miles per hour. The temperature hovered just above freezing, and the field looked less like an NFL stadium and more like a survival test designed to expose every weakness a quarterback could possibly have. In the middle of all that chaos stood a rookie who wasn't supposed to be ready, wasn't supposed to be trusted, and definitely wasn't supposed to carry a franchise with 2 decades of quarterback trauma on its back. Yet Shedeur Sanders did exactly what he was asked to do. He protected the ball. He completed passes most veterans wouldn't even attempt in that weather. He delivered the team's only offensive touchdown. He kept the Browns in the fight long enough for something, anything to go right. But Cleveland didn't meet him halfway. Instead, while Shedeur kept his composure, the organization around him unraveled in real time. Special teams collapses, trick play disasters, catastrophic field position mistakes, the kinds of failures that don't just lose games, but reveal deeper problems inside a franchise that has never learned how to get out of its own way. So if you walked away blaming the rookie today, you weren't watching the same game, because the truth is far more unsettling than a single loss in bad weather. Shedeur did his job. Cleveland didn't do theirs. And what happened next exposed a pattern that should terrify every Browns fan who still believes this team can develop a quarterback. Before anyone judges what happened on that frozen field, you have to understand just how unlikely it was for Shedeur Sanders to even reach this moment. His NFL story didn't begin with red carpets, first-team reps, or a franchise eager to shape its future around him. It began with a slide, a long one. 31 teams passed on him, and when his name finally appeared in the 5th round, the reaction wasn't excitement from Cleveland, it was confusion. He wasn't drafted to compete. He wasn't drafted to threaten the depth chart. He was drafted to wait. And the Browns made sure he did. Reports suggest Sanders spent nearly half a year taking nothing but scout team snaps. No chemistry sessions with starting receivers. No timing work with the first-team offensive line. Not even a single practice rep, preparing him for the real offensive system he was expected to run when his number eventually got called. He entered the building as QB4, and based on how he was handled, the organization seemed perfectly comfortable leaving him there indefinitely. That approach might make sense for a team with stability, but this is Cleveland, a franchise that has burned through 42 different starting quarterbacks since 1999. A franchise that drafts rookies, buries them behind veterans, then wonders why development stalls, confidence breaks, and another jersey gets added to the infamous quarterback graveyard they pretend isn't cursed. Yet despite the mishandling, the doubts, the lack of preparation, Shedeur didn't fold. When injuries forced the Browns into desperation mode, he stepped into the role with only 6 days to prepare and won his first start. That alone should have changed the narrative. It should have earned him real investment, real trust, real support. Instead, he entered Week 13 facing the 49ers in a blizzard, still carrying the burden of everything Cleveland failed to give him. But what came next didn't expose Shedeur's inexperience. It exposed the dysfunction surrounding him. Every rookie quarterback has that one moment where the league pauses, rewinds the clip, and says, "Hold on, who is this kid?" For Shedeur Sanders, that moment came with 46 seconds left in the first half. A snapshot of poise and precision that looked completely out of place in the middle of a snowstorm. Harold Fannin Jr. streaked up the left sideline on a wheel route. Blindside pressure closed in. The pocket shrank. It was the exact moment where most rookies bail, drop their eyes, or rush a desperate checkdown. But Shedeur didn't do any of that. He stepped up, set his feet, and launched a 34-yard arc of pure anticipation. Before Fannin even cleared the defender, the ball dropped perfectly into his stride, and Fannin bulldozed through 2 tackles to finish the job. In one play, the rookie didn't just show talent, he showed timing, confidence, and field vision far beyond what a QB 4-6 months ago is supposed to have. And the football world noticed instantly. Shannon Sharpe tweeted that Kevin Stefanski's offense finally looks competent. LeBron James chimed in with praise. Skip Bayless told his audience Cleveland had been hiding Shedeur by keeping the playbook locked away. Even neutral analysts admitted this wasn't luck. This was quarterbacking. For a few seconds, the Browns looked like a team waking up from a 2-decade nightmare. A rookie delivered a professional-grade throw. The stadium came alive, and Cleveland led the 49ers, something few teams have managed this season. It felt like the start of a new chapter, a crack in the curse, a glimpse of what could happen if the Browns built around this kid instead of burying him. But that moment of hope didn't last. Because while Shedeur was busy proving he belonged, the rest of the team was about to unravel in ways that had nothing to do with him. What happened next wasn't a rookie mistake. It was a franchise meltdown. The 49ers didn't take control of this game through dominance. They didn't outsmart Cleveland. They didn't overpower the Browns' defense. What flipped the scoreboard was something far more familiar to anyone who has watched this franchise for more than 5 minutes. Cleveland beating Cleveland. It started with a punt that should have meant nothing, a routine boot with less than a minute before halftime. But the Browns' coverage unit parted like a broken zipper, and Sky Moore sliced through untouched for a 66-yard return that stunned the stadium. Suddenly, San Francisco had the ball at the 16-yard line, gift-wrapped, tagged, and placed gently on a silver platter. Christian McCaffrey punched it in 3 plays later, a touchdown created not by strategy but by collapse. And Cleveland was just getting warmed up. Early in the third quarter, facing 4th and 1, the Browns reached into the bag of high-risk, low-logic play calls. Harold Fannin Jr. under center. A trick look, a gamble disguised as creativity. But the execution was sloppy, the exchange was off, and the ball hit the ground. San Francisco recovered at the 32-yard line. 3 plays later, Brock Purdy jogged into the end zone. A 7-point lead erased because of a decision no quarterback, rookie or veteran, could influence. But the true backbreaker came in the 4th quarter. The defense forced a stop. Momentum shifted, finally. All Cleveland had to do was field a punt cleanly. Instead, Gage Larvain froze, hesitated, let the ball bounce, and then watched it glance off his hands like a live mine. Another turnover, another short field, another touchdown for San Francisco. 3 touchdowns, 3 short fields, 0 caused by Shedeur Sanders. The 49ers didn't seize momentum. They inherited it. They didn't carve through Cleveland. They were escorted. And while all of this unfolded, Shedeur stood on the sideline, watching the game slip away through cracks he didn't create. But the most shocking part? The rookie still kept the Browns within striking distance longer than they deserved. When the game spirals the way this one did, the quarterback usually goes with it. That's the pattern. Pressure builds, confidence cracks, and younger players start forcing throws they shouldn't. But what Shedeur Sanders did was the opposite of what the situation demanded. He didn't press. He didn't panic. He didn't try to be a superhero in a blizzard. He played smart football, something rookies almost never get credit for. Look at the conditions. 36 miles per hour wind gusts, shredding passing lanes, snow swirling like static on an old TV, and a defensive front that suddenly smelled momentum after every special teams disaster. Under that kind of pressure, many quarterbacks, even veterans, start bleeding turnovers. Yet Shedeur finished with 0. No fumbles, no interceptions, not a single reckless decision. He went 16 of 25 for 149 yards and a touchdown. And while those numbers won't light up highlight shows, context is everything. Every throw was a coin flip in that weather. Every dropback felt like navigating a minefield behind an offensive line that wasn't built to withstand the 49ers' sudden surge of confidence. And even then, Shedeur opened the game going 6 for 8. moving the chains with quick decisions and calm footwork. Was he perfect? No. He took 3 sacks and held onto the ball too long at times, something even analysts noted. But the question no critic can answer is this: what rookie wouldn't in those conditions? Better yet, what veteran would have fared meaningfully better behind a line losing leverage snaps and special teams handing away momentum like raffle tickets? Shedeur's job wasn't to win this game by himself. His job was to give Cleveland a chance to compete. And he did. He did it in weather designed to humiliate quarterbacks. He did it while watching the field tilt against him over and over. He did it while the 49ers started nearly every scoring drive in Browns territory. Most quarterbacks get praised for surviving storms. Shedeur did more than survive. He stabilized the team. But that only makes the next part of the story harder to ignore. When a rookie quarterback survives conditions like this, plays clean football, and still walks away buried under an 18-point loss, the conversation naturally shifts from performance to preparation. And that's where the Browns find themselves under a microscope again. Because for months, fans and analysts have whispered a question that suddenly feels impossible to ignore. Was Shedeur Sanders ever given a real chance? Reports suggest that Shedeur spent nearly 6 months working exclusively with backups and scout team players. Not a single full-speed rep with the starting receivers. Not one practice operating the real offense. Not one opportunity to build timing, rhythm, or trust with the players he's now expected to lead on Sundays. Some insiders claim the coaching staff viewed him strictly as a long-term project. Others hint at internal hesitation, fear of media pressure, fear of the spotlight, fear of the expectations that come with being a Sanders. None of these theories are confirmed, but the pattern is undeniable. The same organization that drafted 2 rookie quarterbacks appears confused about how to develop either one. The same staff that claims to value competition publicly didn't even give Shedeur a lane to compete privately. And the same team that insists every player must earn their role seems strangely committed to keeping him in the shadows until desperation forced them to look his way. This isn't unfamiliar territory for Cleveland. This is a franchise with 42 starting quarterbacks since 1999, each arriving with hope and leaving with more questions than answers. Some struggled, others were mismanaged. A few were talented enough to win elsewhere, but almost all of them were trapped under the same cycle of instability that Shedeur now finds himself navigating. And here's the uncomfortable part. Despite that history, despite the lack of reps, despite the skepticism swirling around him, Shedeur still showed he belongs. Which raises a far more serious question. If he can play like this without proper development, what would he look like with it? There's a reason people roll their eyes whenever a new quarterback walks into Cleveland. It's not cynicism, it's history. A brutal, unending pattern that has swallowed prospects, veterans, journeymen, and prodigies alike. 42 quarterbacks since 1999. That's not a statistic. That's a warning label. And Shedeur Sanders is now staring at the same machine that chewed up everyone before him. Look at what happened today. The defense held the 49ers to just 241 total yards. One of the league's most explosive offenses, bottled up by a unit fighting its heart out in Arctic conditions. Myles Garrett recorded his 19th sack, inching closer to Michael Strahan's all-time single-season record. The corners played disciplined. The defensive tackles controlled the trenches. On most NFL teams, that kind of defensive performance leads to victory. In Cleveland, it led to an 18-point loss. Why? Because the infrastructure around the quarterback isn't just flawed, it's volatile. You can survive a weak offensive line. You can survive conservative play calling. But you cannot survive special teams handing away 21 points. You cannot survive trick plays that implode at midfield. You cannot survive self-inflicted disasters that repeatedly place the opponent inside your own 30-yard line. This isn't strategy. It's sabotage by incompetence. And the franchise has been doing it for decades. Coaches change, quarterbacks change. The losses look identical. Promising moments get smothered by organizational chaos before they ever have room to breathe. That's why Shedeur's performance matters so much. A rookie walked into the most dysfunctional environment in the league, played a clean, composed game in impossible weather, delivered the team's only offensive touchdown, and still watched the scoreboard turn into a blowout. It's not that Shedeur can't succeed. It's that Cleveland hasn't shown it can support anyone who has the potential to succeed. And now, with the season collapsing and the pressure mounting, he's expected to rise above not just opponents, but the franchise itself. Now, the spotlight shifts to what happens next, because Shedeur Sanders isn't just playing for statistics, he's playing for survival. The Browns confirmed he'll start again in Week 14, this time against the Tennessee Titans and fellow rookie Cam Ward. It's a matchup that scouts circled months ago during the draft process. Two quarterbacks with completely different paths now colliding at a moment that could define their early careers. But let's be honest, the stakes are much higher for Shedeur. Ward walked into a system that believed in him immediately. He was groomed, supported, and thrown into meaningful reps from day one. Shedeur walked into a depth chart that treated him like a placeholder. He didn't get the developmental runway. He didn't get the early trust. He didn't get the system built around him. And now, somehow, he's expected to prove himself under more pressure than any rookie should reasonably carry. Because this stretch of games isn't just an audition. It's the pivot point of Cleveland's offseason. If Shedeur continues protecting the ball and showing growth, the front office suddenly faces a problem they never expected. They might already have the quarterback they kept overlooking. And that complicates everything. Free agency plans, draft priorities, roster construction, even job security inside the building. But the opposite carries even more weight. If the Browns collapse around him again, muffed punts, trick play disasters, blown coverages, the narrative won't be that Cleveland failed. It'll be that the rookie couldn't lift them. That's the unfair standard the quarterback position carries, especially in a franchise where blame travels in one direction. What Shedeur faces now isn't just Cam Ward. It's decades of instability. It's a city desperate for a savior. It's a team that still doesn't fully understand what it has in him. And somehow, through all of that, he has to keep showing the calm that veterans spend years developing. Because every snap from here on decides one of two futures. Cleveland finally breaks the cycle, or Shedeur becomes the next name the curse swallows whole. By the time the stadium emptied and the wind finally stopped punishing the field, one truth stood taller than the score. Shedeur Sanders didn't lose this game. He survived it. He navigated it. He outperformed the chaos around him. And in a strange, almost poetic twist, he may have revealed the Browns' biggest flaw without ever saying a word. Cleveland has spent decades searching for the guy, the quarterback, who could stabilize an organization built on instability. They've chased veterans, prospects, journeymen, and first-round promises. They've drafted saviors and discarded them just as quickly. But they've never stopped to ask a far more important question. Can any quarterback succeed here when the franchise itself keeps collapsing? That's the thread running through this entire story. Not Shedeur's accuracy, not his decision-making, not even the blizzard he threw a touchdown through. The real issue is systemic, cultural, embedded so deeply into the organization that even elite defensive performances, MVP-level seasons from Myles Garrett, and flashes of brilliance from rookies still get swallowed by mistakes no quarterback can overcome. Special teams disasters, risky play calls, lack of preparation, no continuity. It's the same movie played with different actors year after year. Yet somehow, Shedeur has brought something Cleveland hasn't had in years. A reason to hope anyway. A rookie drafted to wait, ignored for months, thrust into chaos. And still playing composed, turnover-free football against two playoff-caliber teams. That's not luck. That's not hype. That's a quarterback who could grow into something real if the people around him stop tripping over their own decisions. And that leads us to the question hanging over the rest of the season like a storm cloud. Is Cleveland finally ready to support a quarterback worth building around? Or will Shedeur become the next name added to the list of wasted potential? Because he showed enough today to keep this conversation alive. The Browns showed enough to remind everyone why it keeps happening. The future isn't waiting. It's standing on the field right now, wearing number 14, holding the franchise together while the winds try to tear everything apart.